Damn it, Christian. I told you it was very strong.
Give it about 15 minutes. You'll be kind of in a normal spot.
Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? Very cool. Very cool. It's fine. Honestly, folks, you are listening to an episode of The Freaky Deaky. Okay. Maybe it's not fine. That's not usually how I start things. Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome back. If our voices sound even remotely more energetic than usual, it is because we are recording at night for the first time in
months.
What feels like a lifetime, honestly.
It's amazing. As I was driving over, I was all excited because I felt more energy or energetic.
Yeah, I figured. I was like, this is Christian's time to shine, honestly.
And it was a crazy day at work, so it flew by.
Very true, from what I hear. Allegedly. I wasn't there. There's no evidence, but I believe you because I'm just that kind of guy. Today, we are getting into something that is, I guess, going back to our roots. You know, we're getting very close to Halloween again. I know, that played in my, like, it's so ingrained in my brain now that whenever anyone says Halloween, that soundbite goes through my head. Thanks. Anyway, so I'm honestly just getting into some ghost stories today. But these are some creepy ones, man. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of ghost stories, they have like a bit of a, and I ended it with a wholesome one, just to palate cleanse a little bit. But these are some very interesting stories that I've just been kind of sitting on for a while. And I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time to bring them out, baby. And so that's what we're going to do. If you are new to the show, we ask one thing. That is that you listen to the episode in its entirety. And if you're a fan of what you hear, you tell every single person you've ever met in your entire life. No, I'm kidding. Just rate it 5 stars. That really does the trick for us, you know?
And tell everybody that you've ever met.
You can do that as well. You can support the show in other ways via the website, the merch store, the donate, whatever you want to do. Honestly, we appreciate each and every one of you, and we welcome you back to the show. And now where do I usually go with this? Do I just say, hey, oh, wait, the intro music hasn't even played. Oopsie. We'll see you on the inside. You are now entering the realm of the Freaky Deaky, an unsuspecting stop at the crossroads of fantasy and reality, where the frayed edges of make-believe seep into this cookie-cutter white picket world you've been led to believe is far from extraordinary. What you're about to hear are true stories.
Alleged true stories.
Christian, just... Okay? Tales of the strange and inexplicable thought only to exist in film and folklore. Although difficult to accept, we do not know everything about this reality. About time or space, what lies beneath the ocean's depths. And try though we might, the unchanging truth remains. There are some things we legitimately cannot explain logically. And now that we're on the inside, we can get back to business. You know, as I was mentioning previously, it is 7:32 p.m. I'm wearing a purple hoodie and drinking a lemon iced tea.
Thank you for the update, Scott.
You're welcome. Let's get into this. You know, this first one is called Catch These Baby Hands, and it's by Floyd Sanjan. My friend and a few of his college buddies were going on a ghost hunt around Halloween and had heard about some graveyard where children murdered by their mother had been buried. The graveyard was located off the main road, so my friend parked his car on the side of the road, and the group of 5 to 7 people or so got out and followed the small path through the woods for a couple minutes to get to the graveyard. Once there, nothing exciting happened for the first 10 minutes or so, and they had tried everything the website or whatever they heard the story from told them to do, with nothing resulting. They got bored and, being typical inebriated college kids, started taunting the supposed ghost of the mother. This continued, and a few minutes before they tired and decided to go back to the car as one of the girls had to go to the bathroom.
I hope she left the graveyard.
You hope the girl left? Oh, okay. I was like, yeah, of course. What do you think? They're also bathrooms? But I'm on board now. I picked up, you know?
That just seems disrespectful.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe it's on the fringes of respect, but...
I mean, I wouldn't care if I was in the graveyard, because I'd be dead, but, you know.
But your rotting corpse underground covered in worms and maggots would be a little upset. Be like, wait, what's happening here?
It wouldn't be covered in worms and maggots because it would be like, have all those chemicals in it that they put in your body when you die.
Okay. Sure, why not? Once they got back to the car, my friend, the sober driver, tried opening the handle without unlocking the car because he hadn't locked it in the first place, but found it locked. He attributed this to bad memory at the time. The group drove home laughing and talking like normal. After he had dropped off all the others at their homes, he went back to his own house. He got in at the same time as one of his roommates, who stopped and waited for him to pull in. The roommate had his phone out and shined the light in the window when his friend pulled in as a joke. What he saw was tiny, baby-sized handprints all over the windows. As soon as my friend got out, he went into the house without saying a word to the roommate. The roommate, confused, went back to the car and tried to rub one of the handprints. They were on the inside of the window. To this day, my friend will not speak of his drive home after he dropped off his other friends and has since sold the car without ever driving it again.
Really? What a wuss.
Yeah, get out of here, man. What are these babies gonna...
You went into the graveyard.
That is on you.
You're going to tempt the spirits. The spirits are going to come at you.
Come at me, bro. Oh, man, I don't have that one. Wait, let me...
Got my ass chewed. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, man. The archive is deep, Christian. Okay, let me tell you, I could do some bad things.
This little girl has nothing to do with the guy that goes to a graveyard.
Nice, bring it back.
Starts taunting the imagined spirits there.
Wow. Okay.
And then has...
And here we are.
Babies throwing hands inside the car.
Babies throwing hands. Great. Off to a banging start.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's terrifying is what I think about it.
Why is it terrifying? It's just handprints.
It's handprints all over. That's the thing, which means, okay, now they're invisible babies, so it's not as terrifying to think about right now. But imagine them not being invisible, Christian. You literally have babies walking upside down on your windows all over the place. That's not a good visual for you, boy. I
gotta be honest. The least scary ghost is a baby ghost.
I don't think that's entirely accurate.
Okay. The ghost of a chicken would be less scary, but babies' ghosts are not that scary.
I'll take what is 2 words for the same thing. Babies' chickens, man. Yeah, it's going to be a weird night. Anyway, I like that story because it got me. It was like one of those classic horror tropes where it's like the call was coming from inside the house, where you weren't expecting it until they said that sentence. And you're like, oh, the twist. Lovely.
Could you imagine explaining to your parents, I got to sell this car, Mom and Dad, that you bought me. Why? There's a bunch of baby ghosts in my car.
Yeah.
And the parents like, how the hell did you get baby ghost?
Like, where did you get that weed, damn it?
Yeah. Son, are you on drugs? And the son is like, well, I'm in college. What do you think?
My professor. Anyway, classic college.
It's like 9/11. Oh, my gosh.
Okay. This next one is called Old Man Jenkins Haunts the Church. This isn't... No, I'm just going to get into it. It's fine. It's fine, guys. I had something to say, but sometimes it's okay not to say things,
One of the big lessons in life. Sometimes it's okay to just shut your mouth.
Well, I am good at doling out wisdom, turns out.
But in this case, you're reading, so we need you to open your mouth.
Yeah.
And make those little human sounds.
I have to open and close it multiple times to get the right cadence, too. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, Christian. I don't want you to minimize it. But anyway, this story goes... During Hurricane Gustav, does that sound familiar? Do you know what that one is?
Yeah, but I don't remember how long ago it was. It feels like it wasn't that long ago.
This person says in 2008, I think.
Okay,
so ballpark maybe.
I guess that is starting to sound like a long time ago, but
oopsie,
it really wasn't.
Yeah, didn't think you were gonna get existential crisis on this podcast, but welcome. Anyway, he says I evacuated to a church in Baton Rouge with a friend and his family. At the same time, there was an entire nursing home's worth of old people staying in the church. My friend, his family, and myself all shared one room together. In this church, there was a bathroom that was large, similar to something that would be in an elementary school, a few stalls, a trough, urinal, etc. One night during the storm, my friend and I made a trip to the bathroom. The lights had since gone out, middle of a hurricane and all. The church had a musty, eerie feel to it, kind of like when you turn out the AC in a house for a few days.
I guess somebody from Baton Rouge would understand that one.
Yes, that
Up
is
here
true.
in Alaska where we don't have air conditioning. You're like, what's this air conditioning thing you're talking about?
Oh, you better than us or something, man? We wish, okay? Anyway, it's fine. The area surrounding the church was also dead quiet. Since there was no electricity in the area, the bathroom was several halls over from our room, so we grabbed our flashlights and set out. While walking down one long hall, we shined our flashlights ahead, and there, at the end of the hall, sat an old man in a wheelchair, in the middle of the night with no one around. Now, this hall was incredibly long, so we could make him out, but we couldn't really see all his facial features. Once we grasped what we saw, we turned and looked at each other, semi-freaked out. Then we shined our flashlights back to where he was, and there was nothing there. It was as if he vanished. No signs, no sound, nothing. Needless to say, we hauled our ass back to the room. I don't like that. And I know that sounds like par for the course coming from your boy, but it's kind of freaky, right?
No, because you're in a church. How bad could a ghost be that's in a church?
A church is literally just four walls, Christian. What takes place in a church has a lot to do with...
It's sacred ground.
You sound like Hollywood right now, Christian. I can't take it.
It should be sacred. If not, what are you doing praying there?
Look, okay.
Maybe this church used to be a strip club like some of the churches
I'll say in 30 seconds what it is. So are you saying you can just get away with anything inside of it? No, it literally has to do with the people inside the church, right? It's their message. If they're corrupting their power or whatever, it's not sacred ground. There's probably already demons there, right?
No.
It's literally just four walls.
There would not be demons there.
Okay, well.
Because they don't exist.
Oh, yes, right, of course.
This guy doesn't... 9/11. I don't understand what you're trying to do with that little...
There will come a time and place, Christian, where that soundbite is perfect.
There might.
And everyone's going to stand up at their desks or in their car, and they're going to celebrate with us when we find it, okay? It may not be now, but there will be a time and a place.
I can't ever imagine somebody celebratory mood with that quote.
I should have done it before that last line. I was going to push it after you said celebratory mood. But that's fine. We're getting way off base. And
so old man Jenkins here.
Yeah.
He's just a damn ghost sitting in a wheelchair.
I know. And that's the thing. If it's like one of those stone tape theory things where it's literally just a ghost replaying a moment in his life and he's sitting in the hallway in his wheelchair. Wow, terrifying, right? The fact that it happens when it's like nighttime and dark and power's out and everything like that makes it creepy. Because you're like, wait a second, is someone trying to get me? Am I getting got? You know? And you don't want that.
Once again, you're in a church.
Okay, and we're circling back around, so I think that's enough of that one.
I still have, whenever it comes to ghost stories, I'm like, why is a spirit that has a chance to be somewhere else chooses to come to a particular place and let people see them, and there's no point to it? Makes no sense.
It makes no sense. You're absolutely right, Christian, but guess what? There's going to come a time and a place where you witness something like that, and all you're going to say,
what?
Yeah.
That's fair.
That is fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not always a tax, Christian. Sometimes it's being very logical. I take my soundboard power very seriously, okay? Anyway, let's get into this next one. It's called 3 a.m.
Oh, the hour of the wolf.
The hour of the wolf. gotta compose myself. Yeah, in 15 minutes, you're gonna feel great. It got so much worse, Christian. Anyway, this happened to me when I was a junior in high school. It was December and it had just started snowing that evening. My best friend and I were in debate and getting ready for our state qualifiers that were the next day. We were writing our cases and, as usual, at each other's throats over the details of the cases. It was a stressful, tense evening. We finally finished our cases at about 3 a.m. Then we went to my room for the night. Almost as soon as we get into my room, we hear what sounds like the water turning on in the other end of the house. No big deal, probably my parents, I thought. Then we hear the front door open. I told her I bet my mom woke up and wanted some fresh air. It made sense. It really made sense.
No, it doesn't.
I really thought that's what it was about, until we heard incredibly heavy footsteps in my living room headed for my room. They were not anyone's in my family's footsteps. Then they stopped. My friend and I looked at each other and were both freaked out, just standing frozen in my room. We walked closer to each other, and the footsteps started again. But this time, they were running toward us. We both flipped, we grabbed each other's hands out of fear, and my bedroom door flew open. We both looked at the door, nobody was there. We ran to the bathroom that's connected to my room. I closed and locked the door and stood against it. When we finally got the balls to do it, we sprinted to my parents' room, crying and hysterical. We obviously startled my parents awake. They said neither of them had gotten up. My dad grabbed his gun and looked outside. No tracks in the snow anywhere around our house. Spooky.
I feel like we've been here before.
Spooky the second time around, Christian, I gotta tell you. I know, yeah, I was very depressed. We lost literally 6 or 7 minutes there of just greatness. People, and you gotta feel bad for them. You gotta feel bad for him. Sometimes Scott's computer just does not work that great.
There'll be more greatness later in the episode.
The episode's ruined, Christian.
It's not ruined.
It took our moxie. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. Either way, Christian and I already expressed our thoughts on this story previously in great detail, and now we have to do it again and act like we didn't do it already. So,
luckily, I don't remember any of the things we were talking about.
That happens when you get to your age.
I mean, that happens in general to me. Doesn't matter what age.
Yeah.
I live in the moment. I'm like a puppy dog.
Wow, that is good stuff, honestly.
A puppy dog that's afraid of these boots stomping across the floor because its former owner was abusive and he wore boots and he was terrorizing little girls on the debate team.
This little girl.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I genuinely do not like disembodied footsteps. And it seems like kind of mundane when you think of the grand scheme of the other side or whatever. Just some footsteps. Oh, spooky. But when you actually experienced it, one of the last places I lived in Vegas before I moved out here, if I was smoking in the garage or something like that, I would just hear exclusively in my room boot steps, heavy ass boot steps on carpet, no less. It freaked me out. And so now I almost get like triggered whenever I hear stories about disembodied footsteps, because I just am brought back to how creepy it was having to hear that constantly. And you're like, I know nobody's up there. It's a small room.
You're just hearing things, man. There's no such thing as ghost boots. It's fascinating that people hear footsteps so often. What is the meaning behind this? Why do people hear footsteps more than they actually see these so-called ghosts?
It feels very personal at that point. Like it's meant, like you are the person that's supposed to hear this.
What if it's just an auditory hallucination? What is the meaning behind that? Like science.
I mean,
you got some good buttons this time.
I know. Yeah, I've had these for a while. Dude, I wish I had a bigger soundboard. I wish I had the ability to store multiple. I can only store like 8, and I got to shuffle through pages of them. I'm like, nah, I'm just going to stick to 1 an episode pretty much. Now that everyone's got the sweet, juicy, hot goss on how I use the soundboard for this podcast, we can return to this story that is clearly spooky. What do you guys think in the comments out there? Disembodied footsteps, creepy or really lame? Feel free to shout out, say, hey, I exist, my opinion matters, and this is what I believe about disembodied footsteps. Welcome. And we'll respect you. All right, after we ban you, we'll give you a nice Viking funeral, and it'll be great.
So we're going to burn them?
Yes.
In a ship or a boat?
Now we got that out of the way. We can get this in the way. It's the next story. You like that segue?
Yeah.
Another way. Wow, threes.
Gotcha.
A 3-way? What?
Stop it.
How many times, man? How many times? It just kept happening. Anyway, this is called Don't Disturb the Cleaning Lady. And I know you're going to have some opinions that are probably going to come off very racist, Christian, but I need you to keep them to yourself. No, you should
never interrupt the cleaning lady.
That's very right.
She's doing serious work for low wages. She's probably thinking about how miserable her life is because of the crappy job she has to work at. That even if she's the greatest, they don't pay her.
Okay.
Or him.
Yeah, we're not here to, stereotype. I clean too. You know why? You know why? Because I'm told to. Because your daughter insists that...
Because my daughter is the scariest little girl there ever was.
She is a very scary woman. And that's fine, honestly. Turns out I like fearing for my life. Isn't that fun? Checks out for my, trajectory and all. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into this before we get ourselves into more hot water. That does not sound fun. It says, so here I am, a young boy who awoke in the middle of the night. I am currently sharing a bunk bed with my brother, and I am on the top bunk. I look out into my living room and notice everything is dark. However, there's a person in an evening gown dusting my fireplace mantle.
Kid's got some weird fantasies.
It's the elves. No, the cleaning elves, they come at night, don't you know?
Wait, what was this girl wearing?
A nightgown. But wow, you really got to picture it? Like, you could have just pictured some slacks or something, or some sweats.
You said nightgown. I'm like, what kind of nightgown? Is it the kind that little kids shouldn't see?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, but here I am pushing the boundary.
Is it like a French-made nightgown? She is cleaning the house.
Christian, you're focusing on the wrong part. Anyway, it says, however, there's a person in an evening gown dusting my fireplace mantle. Oh,
also,
yeah.
Which part was I focusing on? How do you know what
the
part?
The nightgown.
Oh, I thought you were talking about a particular part on this ghost.
Okay, see, now you're getting perverted. You dirty heathen.
Got my ass chewed by a ghost lady. What?
Ew, ghost.
Welcome back. Anyway, so now we've gotten past the nightgown. The woman was slender. Oops, got back into it. Which threw me off guard because my mom is obese. I yelled out, "Mom," to the person dusting the counter, and the person turned around. It was not my mom, but some older woman. Oh yeah, hey, that works for some people. Suddenly, she shrieks and her face becomes severely deformed. It was like that shit you see in horror movies. Like ridiculously scary, especially for a young kid. I blinked my eyes and she was gone. I somehow went back to bed, and the next morning I went to my living room and noticed that even though the TV was off, there was something written on the screen. It said, "Do not be afraid." The text slowly faded and no one else saw it. As a young boy, this was, and still is, extremely terrifying to me.
That would be terrifying.
That last part feels very fake.
Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
I just watched a movie where that was, do not be afraid.
Yeah. That's what
I watched a
Angel used to
movie
say.
for the pod where they said that.
For the pod?
Yeah, you'll hear about it in a week or two.
Maybe a Mothman will come and give you a prophecy.
Maybe.
Maybe Richard Gere will appear to you in your dreams. Is that what you like?
That's what they liked in the 80s. At least the ladies
Oh,
did.
yeah. At least the ladies in the 80s. What do you think, if we can circle back to our podcast?
The sexy old.
No, not the sexy one. The regular one dusting a mantle in the middle of the night, Christian. With the
She
face,
turned
the face
around
thing.
with the crazy face and shrieked. She's not a regular
Then
housekeeper.
she's like, "Hey, sorry about that. That happens sometimes. Do not be afraid."
Maybe that was the lady's husband's ghost that lived with her, cleaning and yelling and shrieking at him for years. And he's like, "Don't be afraid. She's just a ghost.
She does this. Trust me, we've been dead for 5,000 years.
She overdosed on legalized speed back in the 60s when the doctors were prescribed that stuff to the housewives."
Okay, you really had to take it there.
I just did, yeah.
Okie dokie.
Artichoke.
Yeah, the next one is arguably one of the weirdest stories I've ever heard.
Arguably.
There's a lot of them. Trust me, there's a lot of weird stories I've heard. but I
noticed.
could make a case for this being up there in at least the top 10. And it's by Ramses the Pigeon. And it's called The Yogurt Demon.
I'm not scared.
Well, you should be.
Is it going to spit out like green yogurt
Yes.
and spin its head around?
It does all those things. I shouldn't even read the story, Christian.
Okay.
You bingo bango, you guessed it. Anyway.
I would have never thought I'd heard bingo bango on our podcast.
You
But
know who I thought of when I said that? For whatever reason, Jason Statham.
Really?
Like the least likely person to be. I just said bingo bango. I'm like, oh God. Oh,
I
God.
thought about Buckaroo Banzai for some weird reason.
Well, different strokes, you know? Anyway, gonna get into this yogurt demon. Oh yeah. To this day, I have no idea what happened. Have you seen those yogurt commercials starring Jamie Lee Curtis? Yeah.
So it's that kind of yogurt.
Oh yeah. As near as I can tell, the primary appeal of the product is that it will help you have a safe and happy bowel movement. That's fine, and I suppose it might be a major selling point for some people, but anytime I see that particular brand of curdled dairy, all I can think about is, well, you get the idea. This is relevant, I promise. So I'm at the grocery store one day, intent on purchasing the supplies necessary to make the most amazing BLT on the face of the planet. One such ingredient, wow, hella pretentious way to say ingredient. One such ingredient is cream cheese, which coincidentally tends to be stocked right next to the yogurt. As I was searching for a suitable supply, this odd rumble became audible, almost like the growl of a wild animal lying in wait.
He ate too much of that yogurt, and it's time to run to the restroom.
See, yeah, there's some twists and turns in this story, Christian, I promise you. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was nothing more than a piece of unseen machinery activating. But as... what a weird thought. That must just be some unseen machinery, I'm sure. Anyway, but as it grew in volume, it took on a sense of being undeniably alive. I remember looking around, wondering if someone's service dog had detected a threat, but I was alone. These are two weird thoughts to have immediately after hearing, just from a rumble. I probably wouldn't notice it for 25 minutes, and I'd be like, wait, how long has it been happening? You know? But it's fine. Different strokes again. Life lessons in today's episode. Wondering if someone's service dog had detected a threat, but I was alone. That's when things got terrifying. The growl grew in intensity, and I could swear that I heard words accompanying it, saying something to the effect of, quote, "Cover you in shit."
Jamie Lee Curtis? Was she talking?
I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis is a part of this. As the last syllable was uttered, the yogurt exploded at me. Packages and serving-sized containers came flying off the refrigerated shelves, while the growling voice repeated, "Cover you in shit." Suffice to say, it did not help my association with that particular product, and it reduced me to a screaming mess. Someone must have heard the commotion because an employee came running to check on me. When I described what had happened, he got this really nervous look on his face and apologized to me. There I was, expecting to be chastised for vandalizing the display, and learning, based on the worker's reaction, that this sort of thing had apparently happened before. Now, when I've described this in the past, people have offered the suggestion that someone, maybe a crazy homeless guy, had gotten into the back of the store and was enacting his bizarre vendetta against yogurt. There's only one problem with that theory. The area in question was one of the sort that was stocked from the front, not the back. Supposedly, there was nothing behind the shelves but a concrete wall. Well, that's enough internet for me today. See you later, internet.
Well, let me tell you the scientific reason this happened. Like science, I don't really have one. Maybe this yogurt, the fruit in this yogurt, built up gases, extraordinary gases from it degrading or, I'm missing a word here, decomposing, and the gases made it explode. Or there's a fucking demon that doesn't like this kind of yogurt.
Yeah, man. Pretty,
which is weird.
I had to read that twice. I'm like, wait, what was happening? Because I thought at first indigestion, like you had originally brought up. I'm like, yeah, he heard the gurgles, he heard the bubbling. It was time.
Yeah, I thought it was going a different direction. Also, there's an old commercial. I'm gonna quote for this story. This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah, classic. So I honestly don't know, but I read that and I had to read it again, and I was like, what a bizarre story.
What a bizarre ghost.
Very, yeah, very angry.
Right now, I just got this image of the ghost realizing we talk about them, like, because, they're bored, they're ghosts. So they understand all the TV shows that talk about them in the podcast. And with us right now, they're just a little irritated that we're laughing at the yogurt demon as Scott pulls out his ghost detector I didn't know he had.
I think we're safe.
Of course we are, because ghosts aren't real.
Watch me listen back to the audio. Hell interference. Yeah, oopsie. My bad. No, I got that as a prop for the desk for the other videos we're doing. Yeah, dude, what the hell? Man, honestly, cover you in shit. Just screaming, cover you in shit, and then explode yogurt all over you.
What kind of childhood trauma is this? What if all of our paranormal experiences were like just trauma resurfacing in a way we didn't understand? Wouldn't that be sad?
No.
All that trauma that has been given to us. So, wait, I forget. I'm Generation X. You maybe didn't have the trauma I had.
You ate trauma for breakfast. You woke up and you're like, hey, parents, any more of that trauma?
I didn't wake up and say that because my parents were working.
Yes, you woke up and said, I'm a grown man and I pay the bills around here.
No, I was
also 8.
I was a little kid scared.
Wow.
Don't answer the phone. Don't answer the door. Don't tell anybody you're home by yourself.
Different strokes, I guess, for parenting styles.
And then the demon burst through my bedroom floor.
That happens, turns out. That does happen. Speaking of demons and bedroom floors, let's get into this next. Was that 9/11 bit on that part we lost?
I hope so.
Really? Oh, man.
I don't feel comfortable with that one.
Because if that, oh, really? You don't? Even after all this time?
Yeah.
I was 11, dude. I'm 34 years old right now. I can talk about 9/11 in a joking matter.
Can you, though?
This country is a joking matter. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
Every country is.
Yeah. It cut to me, being arrested.
As long as there's humans, there's problems.
Ain't that some shit?
And if you don't believe that you're part of that problem, move it on. Let's go to the next ghost story.
I got 99 problems, but a human is all of them. Damn it. Turns out. Yeah, this next one, I had a great segue, and then you derailed us, or I derailed us, and I honestly don't remember.
It was you this time.
Sure.
I'll take credit for derailing when I do it, but this time it was you.
Okay.
It's funny how sometimes you take on the mannerisms of your child.
He takes on the mannerisms of me.
No, man, the way you say okay now.
Oh,
it's so much
look,
like
I shifted it because that's how he does it. But he got that from me every time he'd ask me to do something. I'd be like, okay. And that's his answer for yes. I was telling China, I almost felt bad that he doesn't like say the word yes. He's like, that one, and then you grab it and you're like, you want this one? He's like, okay.
See, every time he does that to me, I'm like, are you messing with me, child?
He's like, I guess
because he's like,
great idea. I guess I'll have that. Okay.
Yeah, like technically he's like, this is your idea. So if we get in trouble, okay.
It does have that.
He'd be like, Mom, I just said okay. I didn't want to say yes.
And I said it in a questioning, inquisitive way, like, should we be doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do feel bad about that, but it's also adorable. I'm
It's
like, don't
funny
ever
as
stop
hell.
doing it. I want to be 14 and I'm like, hey, sport, you want to go to the store with me? I'm like, okay.
Okay, I got to jump in here because you just said something that any parent would understand once that has dealt with teenagers.
Hmm.
If you're like, you want to go to the store with me, and he's 14, he ain't going to say okay. He's going to be like,
What the fuck?
I don't want to be seen with you.
Are you kidding me? I have friends out there, you nerd.
Yeah.
Great times. Thanks for that. Anyway, this next one, damn, the segue is so far back that I can't even remember. No one remembers it.
I didn't even know you did a segue.
I did one like 15 minutes ago.
You just said, let's get back to ghost stories.
No, I talked about a room, and this is also in a room. That was
With
the
the view?
segue. The worst segue of all time, but also this is called The Burning Man.
Oh, the festival.
Yeah, I talked about it being a room. That was a red herring, Christian. Anyway, I used to date this girl whose family told me about this. I'll try and make it quick. LSS.
They're trying to get rid of him. That's why they told him the story.
Mhm.
That's my prediction. I haven't heard the story, though.
Well, yeah, that's clear because we're one sentence into it. Great
Well-
place to jump in for a prediction. One sentence into a story.
My thinking is we have listeners that might think I've actually gone, like that we go through each other's stories. And a long time ago, we just stopped doing it and are
Yeah.
pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised as we go through it.
Usually unpleasantly, but that's fine. That's what the dynamic is, it works. Anyway, says LSS. Long story short, damn, I'm good at guessing things.
What's LLS?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, what the fuck is LSS?
Oh,
My brain really does comprehend these. And I think Jeremy sent me one. Either that or I can't remember. I saw it for a moment. I was like, is this a really long? Nice. And my brain started. I was like, I don't have time for this right now. I have to get back because I would have stared at it for 30 more minutes. So nice try, Jeremy. But I am going to get back to it at some point. Anyway, that's beside the point, guys. We all know I'm great. It's fine. Just kidding. Let's get back to it. What is real? Anyway, she tells me, long story short, she tells me that when she was a little girl, she woke up at night to see this old man who was literally on fire and staring at her in her room. She freaked out and hid under the covers, yelling for her parents. When her parents rushed in, they saw nothing. She refused to sleep in her room, so her parents changed her room, and that was the last of it. Her parents, convinced it was a nightmare, and eventually she believed that's all it was. Fast forward when she's moved out and in college, her parents call her and tell her that her little brother, now sleeping in that room, had the exact same thing happen to him. They said they never spoke of the nightmare after it happened to her because they believed that was all it was. They also knew how terrified she was, so they would hope that she would forget about it. Therefore, there was no way that her brother could have just repeated what he heard. When I was dating her, her brother was a teenager, and they both talked about what they saw and claimed they saw the exact same thing, detail for detail. The parents were pretty freaked out about it. Still, no one knows what the hell it was or why it was there. Creepy, man.
Okay, so before I get into my...
You're going to say something. If you say something about the Human Torch, Christian, I swear to God. Are we going Fantastic Four? Are we trying to... See, that was me assuming first sentence. And you see how off that was?
It
Yeah.
was very off.
Lessons for both of us today, Christian, it turns out.
Yeah. I'm going to say this from my point of view to begin with, and then I'm going to talk about the story a little bit.
Okay. So that's weird. You almost never do that.
There is a chance, we don't know, that somehow it was mentioned or the little brother was alive at the time the girls saw it, and he just remembered and had a dream about it later. So
there is a chance.
So we'll move on from that because we don't have any way of researching everything we'd need to do. Anyway, maybe that supposed devil that burst through my floor in flames was just a burning man that I didn't know about.
Yeah, and you cast judgment upon him, and I was like, "That's the devil," and he was like, "Yo, what the?"
It was I stereotyped the burning man.
That happens.
But also, when I was a kid and smoking was a bigger thing, you'd always hear, "Don't fall asleep. Don't smoke in bed with your cigarettes in bed because you'll fall asleep and catch yourself on fire."
Yeah.
Maybe these are ghosts of people that actually did that, or they just really pissed off their spouses who set them on fire because of the things they did. Who knows? But let's go with the public service announcement, since we already talked about one earlier. This one was about not smoking in your bed because you'll catch yourself on fire and die.
Sure. What was the other one?
I don't remember. It was earlier in the episode. Oh, it was the weapons in the bathroom.
Okay.
Weapons in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. That was probably lost too, wasn't it? Or no, that was before. Huh?
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? We lost so much, guys. There's a part of us that's never coming back.
We cried.
Did, yeah. Yeah, it was a really awkward moment, but
Scott
sometimes
cried
that
more
happens.
than me.
Yeah, I did. I was bawling. I was really feeling it.
Millennials, man.
They had to call me Blink-182 because I was feeling this.
Oh
but
my gosh.
it's fine. Anyway, I'm going to get in this next one because I don't want to talk about burning people anymore, and it's scary, and I don't want to think about it before bed.
It's just wrong.
It is wrong.
Don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That should go without saying, but okay. Anyway, this next one's called Come Back, Keith. I know, riveting title. And it's by 100110001.
Oh, is this some binary code name that we won't get because we're not computer scientists? Like science.
Classic. Anyway, probably to answer your question, yes. The story is about a guy who was a friend of my dad's. We'll call him Keith.
I want to call him James.
Okay, well, he says his real name is James, but no.
We're going to call him Keith.
Yeah, definitely not his real name. This was in Taiwan, so it might have been James. You never know. There's about a 1 in 10,000 chance it was James. This guy is at a camp in a rural area with some of his...
You didn't think you'd have to say rural when it comes to something Taiwan, right?
My brain has I'll have two pathways of thought at the same time, and one of them will be hilarious, and it'll be like, don't say that, that is inappropriate. But I'll know what the words were, and I'll laugh a little bit sometimes, and I think there's a reason that I go to therapy, but it's fine. I'm going to get back into this bad boy if everyone is okay with that. This guy is at a camp in a rural area with some of his friends, but the camp is just outside of a small town, so they could head in for food or supplies whenever they wanted. Anyway, he goes to lunch by himself at the town, and then runs into an old friend, Don, who invites him for a meal.
Wait, we're in Taiwan, right?
Yes. Are you upset that his name is Don?
Yeah, I'm very upset.
You don't think Don could be something in...
I think it's funny that like some of the Asian countries will totally be like, you know what? Don't even bother trying to teach these Americans how to say your name. Just get an American name.
Just make it one syllable. Just be like, oh,
Don, Keith. And you're like...
No, he said we'll call him Keith. It's not. That's a made-up name. Keith is hella white. He probably did it on purpose. It's like, this is my friend Brett. Anyway, he says, everything starts out great, and he's really happy to see this guy. But a growing feeling of discomfort begins to gnaw at him.
You should try some yogurt.
There you go. Eventually, halfway through the meal, he gets the worst feeling he's ever had and realizes what the fuck is wrong. Don is dead. This dude has been dead since they were in middle school, or whatever the Taiwanese equivalent of that is. He tries his best to keep his cool, but is basically just looking for an excuse to leave now. Don offers to pay for the meal and pulls out some weird money that Keith's never seen before. Keith hastily says thanks and tries to leave, but Don says, no, wait, we haven't seen each other in so long. How about we head down to the river and do some fishing? Well, after realizing this dude might be a ghost and seeing some weird money, no way in hell was he going to agree to that, so he declines. Don gets more and more agitated, and finally Keith just starts hastily running away. Without sounding very angry, Don says, all right, I guess you got one on me, but you owe me now.
Oh,
weird. Keith is now frantically power walking around this town, not recognizing anything, when he suddenly rounds a turn onto a street that he knows. He continues on, leaves the town, and goes back to his friends. He's not too familiar with the area, but he sure as hell remembers the restaurant that he went to for lunch. So he relays what just happened to the friends at camp and asks them about the restaurant. Neither it, nor the street it was supposedly on, exist. So did Keith just have a crazy dream, or did he take a wrong turn and have lunch in the afterlife? Says no fucking clue, but 3 months later, tragedy befell Keith's younger brother. His brother was out with his own friends having fun when suddenly, according to the friends, he starts acting really weird, walks out into the water even though he can't swim. Suddenly, in waist-deep water, he just disappears onto the surface. They all run to where he is, but when they tried to pull him out of the water, he seemed stuck. It was only after he was dead that they were able to pull him out. This river where Keith's younger brother drowned was where Don wanted to go fishing.
I guess he owed him one.
I know. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like, what is that?
Okay, now, one thing I wasn't clear on the story. Was his friend somebody he knew, and he just all of a sudden realized he was eating with somebody that was dead?
Yeah, because it was someone from his childhood.
Okay,
that had died like when he was a child.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Scott. You meet somebody that you knew as a child. All of a sudden you realize, oh, wait, I'm pretty sure he died. This is a ghost.
Yeah.
But your ghost is being friendly and he wants to just hang out with you a little bit more. Do you deny him?
He wants to take you down to the river.
To go fishing.
No, that's like all the lore we talk about with like Kushtaka. We talk about with like all these other, where it's like they call out to you from the water. They lure you to the water. That's what it feels like, man.
I'm like, if this was in Italy, I'd be like, okay, don't go because you don't want to sleep with the fishes.
Hey, catch this. The restaurant and the road don't even exist. Like where it's like you walked into some alternate, like weird dimension. Money doesn't look right. Everything else looks exactly the same, apparently, but the money is different. Who knows?
It's maybe just money from a different time period. Taiwan has not always been Taiwan.
Yeah. I gotta say, man, Asian stories
are scary
they're
as
the
fuck.
creepiest fucking stories I've ever heard.
And
I
always wonder if it's just because we don't understand the culture quite the same way, or just the way they relate their scary stories are terrifying. I remember when I watched the movie The Ring.
Yeah, please don't remind me of that movie.
That
it's
one
very
was
scary.
just reached levels, especially at that point, that I hadn't seen in a scary movie. Now we have some pretty good scary movies, but back then it was just mainly slasher scary movies. And then, the Amityville horror or the
Great choice.
Or the Exorcist type. But most of them were just like Jason and Michael Myers and, kind of scary, but not terrifying.
Yeah, more gory than anything.
Yeah.
For sure. Christian, you're absolutely right. You did it. Everyone celebrate.
I mean, why? I'm always right.
I'm going to go ahead and get into this next story that is called The House Isn't Haunted, The Door's Just Stuck. It's by Manfred Beardman.
Weird. That's the second beard reference I've had today, and I wasn't even around you all day.
There you go.
I just want to let everybody know I met the state champion of beards today.
It's a legendary moment, Christian.
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Oh, it's a thing.
But with the fair coming up, that's what got us on the subject. Because I guess that's where the competition is.
That is where the competition is. I think my buddy Lauren won it a couple years ago.
This guy does have an impressive beard. I see him all the time in the store, and he's pretty cool. But I'm like, it's not crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that is impressive.
It's very nice.
He looks like somebody that stepped out of like the Middle Ages, like a knight. That's the kind of beard he has.
Very interesting. Yeah, remind me before. You'll probably forget, and I'll probably forget, but I got a bunch of extra stuff I can give you to. Anywho, The House Isn't Haunted, The Door's Just Stuck. One of my high school friends lives in the oldest town and house. Nope.
Yep.
Lives in the oldest house in town.
I want to live there.
There you go. You are the oldest house in town, I think. He told me he was about 150 years old, a little younger, and there were all kinds of rumors about ghosts. So his sister would always have sleepovers there with her soccer friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're apparently soccer rockers.
It's football.
Okay. Since they all wanted to have a sleepover in the haunted house. Now, the door to the bathroom on the first floor often gets stuck, so being locked in there wasn't uncommon, and at least one girl per sleepover would get locked in at some point, but you could always force it open from the outside. One night during one of these sleepovers, his dad comes down for a glass of water or something, and hears the typical banging and screaming coming from the bathroom. He walks over reassuring her, "It's okay, the house isn't haunted, the door is just stuck," while he works at the door. He manages to open the door, looks inside, and can you guess it, Christian?
Nobody is there.
No one's in there. He goes to the living room and does a head count. Everyone's in their sleeping bags. I have no idea why they still live in that house.
Because I thought we talked about this.
Because in this economy, you got to take what you can get, all right? It's fine.
Most haunted houses, I mean, the movies make them out to be these big old fancy mansions, and that could be the case.
Sure.
But most people live in a little house. Sometimes they can barely afford it, an apartment
Sometimes
that might be haunted. What are you going to do? You can't just move every time a ghost shows up.
I know, I've tried. It's very expensive, turns out.
Yeah. We can't do that. And we cannot afford to be infested with ghosts or demons until this podcast blows up. Because we cannot just run away from them.
That's true. And yeah, we need, if anything, getting infested by ghosts or demons and having a podcast talking about it would probably actually bring in a lot of eyes. So great idea. We'll jot that down for later. But yeah.
But could you handle it? Like Scott would be like, just a shivering idiot on the couch.
Wow, just a shivering idiot over here. Look at me.
I saw another ghost. I heard footsteps.
I know. Well, you know what? It honestly doesn't, these days, it doesn't take much to startle me. I will be honest, as I always am on the show for you.
Is he really honest, though?
Hmm.
I mean, you're never honest about my age.
Christian, I am very generous about your age, okay? I don't even say how old you really are, okay? Because a gentleman never asks, all right? But that's fine.
I'm like Alice Rivers, 400 years old.
Yeah, man, I keep thinking about that Taiwanese story, man.
That's weird.
It's creepy as hell. It's a creepy story. It's a creepy story, but it's also great. I love it.
Also, this guy has to live the rest of his life knowing that he sacrificed his little brother.
Wow. A heavy burden you've laid on him. But
maybe all Keith wanted to do was really go fishing. You
Christian,
can't fish with ghosts.
You can't be that naive, first of all.
There's no I don't think every entity that I meet is going to kill me.
Would you? Okay, let's put you in that spot. You realize you're talking to a friend that's been dead for many moons, and you start to get a weird vibe from him. Uncomfortable, not cool, right? And then he's like, hey, how about we go down to the river to go fishing? You're like, what do? You go? You notice he has money that doesn't exist and it's weird.
We have a paranormal podcast.
Yes.
I feel like you and the listeners would be very disappointed if I didn't go get more information.
That is true. Yeah, you do have an obligation.
Yeah.
Same for demons, man. You got to remember that. If demons ever pop out, you got to be like, I'm
going to talk to him.
You're going to talk to him.
I'm like, tell me your demon name.
Yeah.
And he's going to go Keith. And I'm like, no, don't dumb it down for us Americans. Tell me and it'll be some really long, ridiculous Latin name.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, great. Oops, here we are.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have asked. Yeah.
But I will for our listeners.
Well, there you go. That's all we can really ask for, Christian. I'm going to, and like I said, I'm going to close it out with a wholesome story because a lot of these have been very spooky.
Have they, though?
They have been, Christian. They have been. You monster. What's spooky is your disbelief, and I think everyone can agree. Just kidding. There's probably a lot of people that do not. But this is by Altritis.
I hate that.
Okay. This is going to be fun. My daughter was born with mild tracheomalacia.
Sounds close.
Tracheomalacia. Hey, do I sound like a doctor, folks?
So there's something wrong with her throat. It's Malaysian?
Yeah, her throat is Malaysian, and she is not. That's the issue.
I'm not making fun of people that have had to go through this.
Please do not apologize for that. That was the mildest joke of all time. There's no... If people get offended by that, we don't want them here. Okay, I promise you.
I kind of do because it's kind of entertaining.
This is for the rugged veterans of being roasted alive forever. Okay, that's what this show is for. And that's fine. Anyway, the only trouble it ever caused was that she would make a whistling sound sometimes when she was breathing, especially when she was excited or upset. Christian laughing at a disabled child. Beautiful. It was...
No. I just got an image of somebody that I used to work with, and we'd fly back on the plane, and she had the most ridiculous laugh that annoyed everybody
making it up
in the plane. And in the store, someone came in with the same last name. I'm like, are you related?
And you said, laugh right now.
And I'm like, are you related? And she's like, yeah, I'm related to her. And I'm like,
and then she laughed, and you're like, no.
I'm like, how about, does she still have that laugh? And the look on her face, this family member, the look on her face was like, I have been tortured by that hideous laugh for 30 years. It was the look on her face, and that was funny in itself.
Christian, I am so glad that you could take a moment of your time.
I'm just telling you where my mind went right there.
To really make fun of the sound that someone makes when they're at their happiest. What a monster.
I just did it.
You're a monster. Yeah, I saw it. No, the whole world witnessed.
Even her family had problems with it.
Even her family. The woman was alone, and all she wanted to do was laugh, and Christian said, not on my watch. Not on my watch.
No, she was in the back of the plane.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get back to this story.
Go ahead.
Speaking of getting back to things, wow, I'm great with the segues today.
Are you, though?
Mm-hmm. Fast forward to when she was about 4 months old and fast asleep in her crib one evening. Her older brother had the stomach flu that day and had been throwing up. We thought the baby hadn't caught it. But actually, before we continue, there is some mild, maybe trigger warning in this. It's a wholesome story.
I thought it was wholesome.
I know, it's very contradicting, it turns out. But I have to just, if it's with, children that could be dying and stuff like that, turns out it's not as happy as you make it sound, Christian. So, gonna go ahead and get back into this.
So the kid's gonna die?
No, I can't. Hey guys, you'll be fine if you listen to it. I promise it's not going to traumatize you forever. I'm doing this as a courtesy, and I hate the world we live in right now.
I'm traumatized as it is,
and that's fine because that's the show. But her older brother had stomach flu. We thought the baby hadn't caught it, but a little while after we put her to bed, we suddenly heard her softly sputtering on the monitor, then silence for a few seconds, then a huge loud wail, which made both my husband and I run even faster to her room. By the time we got to her, she had fallen eerily quiet again. We saw she was gasping for air, choking, unable to clear the vomit from her throat or get a clean breath. Even after we picked her up and cleared her mouth, she continued to gasp. She turned blue, then gray as I drove with her quickly to the ER.
There's nothing fucking wholesome about this song. I am traumatized.
It's like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, guys. You got to stick with me, all right? And hope that the ending is either really great or the shittiest thing you've ever heard. And either way, I'm sure I get to hear about it. So be my guest, anyhow. Here we go. Continuing. She had partially recovered by the time we got to the ER. They gave her O2, chest x-ray, then a clean bill, and we left.
Clean bill.
Then a cleaning bill.
And a real expensive bill after that.
Yeah. Oh, you're on your way. You're all set. Hey, anything for my fellow Americans. Also, $5,000 for your stay.
$5,000. Just you're acting like it's the 70s.
It was
when
Black Friday.
It was like $50,000 for the oxygen alone.
You really do be like that. It's a ripoff, but that's a different podcast that Chris and I are coming out with called Paula Dicks.
We are not coming out with that one.
And someone else is going to take that great name and they're going to do it, and I hate you for it.
You can have it.
No, I'll start my own podcast, and people will be like, wow, you know nothing about the subject, but please talk about it constantly. And I'll say, you got it, on to the next episode. Anywho, back to this story. Fast forward about 2 hours later when I'm back in my bedroom with her sleeping, upright in a baby seat next to me on the bed. My husband and I talked briefly about what would have happened had the baby not cried out so loudly. Would we have reacted so quickly? Would she have recovered?
Oh my gosh.
Hey.
I'm really upset with you, Scott.
That's fine. That's fine. That's also a theme in the show. I'm in and out of sleep myself because I kept checking her. One of the times, just before I had fully awoken, I looked out in the hallway and saw my grandfather, who had passed away a few years prior. When he was alive, he was not the most involved granddad, but when he met my husband, my boyfriend at the time, they had an instant connection. When he passed away, his last coherent words were, "I'm not going to make it to Ultraitis and Mr. Ultraitis' wedding, am I?" He loved my husband dearly. Anyway, I see him out in the hall this night. He is just standing there in khakis and a polo with his hands in his pockets. In my dream state, I see all of my children, except the baby, pulling at his arms and playing with him. He has a simple smile on his face. He looks toward the baby's room and back at me and says, "I'm sorry I made her cry, but I'm glad she's okay." And we brought it back to Wholesome. Christian,
I mean,
you question my methods, but
no, I'm still, because you can't, it can be wholesome, but now I'm traumatized.
And that's fine, Christian. I just don't want other people to be traumatized, you know?
So the grandfather supposedly woke the girl up.
Like frightened her or something like that to get her to, wail out.
I mean, that sounds like a smart move.
That is a smart move. Yeah, that's, again, the wholesome part was the ending there where everyone's okay.
Also, when you're exhausted and just went through a traumatic, fearful experience over your children, it's like 9/11. It's good to have your grandfather or the grandfather come around and save your ass. Got my ass chewed. Yeah, because that's the way it used to be with grandparents. I'm like, now that I'm a grandparent and I look back at past grandparents I experienced, I'm like, you guys missed out on everything. This is fun.
Yeah. I am reminded of a comment that we got a while back on one of our videos. Someone saying that they've been a listener for a while, but the first time they actually watched one of the videos, and they said, "I did not expect Christian to look so much like my Mexican grandpa."
I'm not even Mexican, but I've heard that before.
You know how many people I've had to say that you're ethnically ambiguous too on YouTube? It's such a weird thing. People are like, "You said he was black." I'm like, guys, he is, and it's not okay for you to say that he's not in this climate. Okay.
I choose not to put labels on. I'm a human being.
Wow, a human being. That's right, folks.
You're welcome, you bean lovers out there.
Wow,
I said the word.
That sounds more racist than anything. I'm so glad I have that as a audio clip now. You're welcome, you bean lovers. That sounds, wildly inappropriate.
I mean, it's if you take it out of context, yeah. But
Which is what I'm best known for, Christian.
For the people that listen to our show that make fun of me,
Classic.
and for a couple of years now over that one particular word, I just decided to lean into it with my ambiguous self.
It's science, really.
And I can tell you what percentage I am, but not in this context. You have to meet me in person.
Wow.
I've done a DNA test. The government has my file.
Yeah, and they have a lot more than that, but that's fine. And beside the point, it's cool.
Is it cool though? You took me through the whole story that you said was wholesome, and I was
at the end it was wholesome. And I made it right.
No, you didn't make it right.
That's what I do. I'm best known for making things right.
You dealt with one of my biggest fears from my whole life, especially parenting life. You traumatized me over it.
Yeah.
And then
I brought you through the other side.
Yeah, I feel like you're like one of the elder or the parents back when I was a child that, we're just helping you out.
I believe they were called the greatest generation, were they not?
No, my parents were. Yeah, my parents were boomers. So yeah, they weren't. There's no such thing.
They gave themselves that title. You can't just say that.
If you give yourself a title, you don't deserve the title.
Yeah, we all know what happens when you give yourself titles, right, Christian? It's made up and nobody has to care about it.
It's like when I call myself Christian the Great,
we chuckle. All know that's a lie.
I chuckle at it because it's hilarious that people like Alexander back in the day. I'm Alexander the Great.
Okay.
Or any of those people.
I don't know if they gave themselves the name. Pretty sure.
Peter. My name is Peter the Great.
Wow.
It was probably Petrov the Great because he's Russian.
Okay. Well, now we got that history lesson out of the way, folks. So that's all I have for you. But wait, there's less. Goodbye. No, that would be a great way to end the episode, though. Folks, find us on social media at Freaky Deaky Pod. Join in the conversation in the comments below. And do us a favor, help us get the word out, Tell your friends, tell your homies. Do you know people that are weird and like increasingly dry humor and sound bites and tangents?
Sponsor us with a billboard in the biggest city you live in.
Somebody get Halfday iced tea to sponsor the show.
What is Halfday iced tea?
Well, we don't have sponsors here, Christian, so nobody will ever know. But if they get to sponsor the show, then I'll be sure to tell people about that. And in short, it's a very good iced tea. You can never find, it's a prebiotic, 3 grams of sugar in it. It tastes
You believe
similar.
In that prebiotic stuff?
No, but I like to say it because it makes me sound douchey as hell.
I mean, these people out here are trying to sell us probiotics, prebiotics. The quantibiotics are the one. That's the way to go.
I like to live in the moment biotics, okay? I'm not looking at the future ones. I'm not
okay, everybody. Did you just hear that joke? Scott never is, I like to live in the moment.
That's all
He's like,
do.
I'm going to catastrophize every moment ahead of me instead of living in the moment.
And that's fine because it works.
Does it?
I'm in the moment right now and it's working very well.
Just reminds me, I really need to push hard to have Friday nights open.
You do. Your daughter loves Friday nights. When you and I have to record, she's like, it's a me night. Yeah. And she plans it the whole
I've heard that one time when she got super mad that I had to work.
Yeah, so if you've heard it, you know damn well I've heard it.
I get less tips when I don't work Friday night though.
It's okay.
But it's not about the tips. It's about the audience.
Yeah, it's about the motion of the ocean. Anyway.
We're working on it.
That's true. So with all that said, anyone that's left, all 4 of you, hey, thanks. We'll see you. Christian is doing, what are you doing next week? Mothman? Or are you doing the other one?
Whatever one you say we're doing next week, we're doing.
That's right. I'm the captain of this ship. No, it's fine. Guys, follow us on social media, comment below. What was your favorite story of the episode? Also,
And were you traumatized like me?
Yeah. And while we're at it, what's your favorite lunch meat? Anyway, we'll see you next week.
It's not bologna.
Right here. Actually, mine might be on the Freakity Dinkity. Fare thee well.
Well, the affair.
Okay.